Hey there, welcome to another video on brain and behavior. My name is Dr. Kapil Kakkar. I'm a psychologist and author who used to write for Times of India, Speaking Tree, and Mind, Body, Spirit and You. You may also check out 4 books I have authored on Amazon. Today we are going to talk about something very interesting. It's about culture and brain, how culture shapes the brain. So we look at two different cultures. One is an individualistic culture and the other is the collective culture or collective minds. There has been a popular belief that girls are weaker at mathematics than boys, isn't so? However, large-scale cross-cultural research tells us a very different story. Studies comparing maths performances across countries found that in highly gender equal societies where girls and boys are treated equally, particularly Scandinavian nations, the difference in math scores between the boys and the girls is minimal or negligible. In contrast, in countries with significant gender inequality, the conservative countries, say Gulf for example, and several others, the gap between the boys and girls math score is substantial or significant. So the conclusion is clear here. Biology alone does not explain performance. Culture does. Individualistic versus collective culture, we are talking about, say, America and East Asian countries. Now let us look at how the culture fundamentally shapes cognition and brain functions through certain research. A large body of research comparing America, the western part of the world, and East Asia culture consisting shows two contrasting cultural frameworks. Individualistic culture, such as United States, there they emphasize on autonomy, personal achievements, uniqueness, and individual rights. However, in East Asia, the collective culture emphasizes on harmony, interdependence, conformity, and group-guided behavior. In individualistic cultures, people define, which is America and Western world, people define themselves using I, me, my, focusing on personal goals and self-expression. So it's all about them. In collectivistic culture, identity is more often defined in relation to family, community, and social roles, like we are talking about the Asian culture. How culture appears in behavior, there was a fascinating experiment where participants were asked to draw a sociogram, a diagram of their social network. You know what Americans, the Western culture people did? They drew themselves in the center of that large circle with others arranged around them, family and friends arranged around them. Participants from collectivist cultures rarely place themselves at the center. Instead, they emphasized relationship and social connections, reflecting a worldview where the group comes before the self. So, in the Asian culture, the participants did not draw themselves in the center like the Americans did. Cultural differences in brain activation that neuroscience studies reveal that culture even influences which brain region activates. In Americans, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, this is the emotional side of the PFC, becomes highly active when they view images of themselves, which means they like themselves so much that their emotional side, it gets activated. Now in the East Asians, the same brain region becomes more active when they view images of close relatives or friends. So which means the priority is more friends than themselves. Memory patterns also differ. Another research. Americans are more likely to recall moments when they influence others. On the other hand, The East Asians are more likely to recall moments when others influence them. So look at the emotion reward and the dopamine. Dopamine, I'm sure you know, the reward part of the brain. The mesolimbic dopamine system associated with reward and motivation also shows cultural tuning. In European Americans, dopamine actively increases when viewing excited or high arousal facial expressions. So when they see faces, their dopamine increases. In East Asian, dopamine activation is stronger when viewing calm, low arousal expressions. So Asians, that is why they are more about calmness, less aggression. This aligns with cultural values. Western culture rewards excitement and intensity, while collectivist culture, the Asian culture values emotional balance and restraint. That is why you will see a lot of restraint. Asians, they don't attack others. Now, thinking style is also different. Collectivist societies often adopt a consequential mindset, asking what will happen if I do this? How will the society think? What will others think? However, the European American culture would think, how will I feel about myself? So it is not about society, it is how they feel themselves. Cognitive studies show Westerners solve problems in a linear, analytical manner, relying heavily on language and categorization. East Asian adopt a holistic approach focusing on relationship and context. Let us look at the example. When explaining the movement of a ball, East Asian tends to describe environmental factors like friction and interaction with the environment, while Westerners focus on intrinsic properties like weight or trajectory of the ball. Categorical versus relational thinking. One classic experiment, participants were asked, which two go together? You can ask yourself also this. So they were given three things, three objects. So there was a monkey, a bear, or a banana. And they were asked to choose two, pair them. Westerners grouped monkey and bear because both are animals. And you know what East Asians grouped? Monkey. They grouped monkey with bananas, focusing on relationship between the two. Now, neither is right or wrong. They reflect different cognitive frameworks shaped by culture, perception, and attention. When shown a person standing in a complex scene, Westerners will remember the central figure more accurately. East Asians remember the background and the contextual detail better. What does it mean? When there's a person standing in the middle, the Americans would look at the person, but the East Asian would look at the environment. Westerners' eye move directly to the center where the individual is standing. East Asian eyes scan the entire scene first, the environment, the surroundings around it. Interestingly, when individuals are focused or forced to adopt the opposite style, Westerners focusing on the environment or East Asian are focusing on the person right in the center, now the frontal cortex part of the brain works harder because it has started thinking, indicating greater cognitive effort. Final thoughts. Culture does not merely influence behavior, it sculpts the brain itself. Our perceptions, emotions, memories, and even neural reward systems are deeply shaped by the cultural environment in which we grow. That is, our culture defined our neurons. Understanding this is not about deciding which culture is better, but about recognizing how profoundly culture programs your brain, your neural system, which part of the brain gets more activated, seeing what. If you like this video, kindly share it far and wide. Thank you so much. Take care. Ciao.